Hey, sorry I'm late getting this video posted. I had the notes ready, just hadn't made the video yet. I usually make them on Wednesdays and upload them the night before, but yesterday was a little bit of a rough day. Okay, so today's Unit 1, Day 4. We're talking about equations and inequalities. And what we're going to be doing today is mainly just checking solutions for equations and inequalities. So what is the difference between an equation and an inequality? So an equation is any time you have an expression that uses an equal sign, while an inequality is when you have an expression that uses any of these signs, in which I break them down later on in the notes what each of these signs mean. You've probably seen them before. So what it means to check a solution. Now, what we practiced before was substituting or plugging in a value for x into an expression to find an answer. So what we're doing is we're already given an answer, and we're going to plug in a value or an expression into it to see if it works, to see if it actually creates the solution that it's saying it's going to. So, for example 1, we're going to check the solutions of an equation. So here's our equation. 4x plus 1 equals 9. And we're given two solutions. We're given that x equals 2 and x equals 3. And we want to see which one is true, which one actually tells us the answer is 9. So what we do is anytime you see an x, so let's go ahead and start with x equals 2. We're going to substitute 2 in for x, just like what we did before when we were dealing with expressions. So remember, whenever something's written right next to it, that means multiplication is occurring. So we can say 4 times, instead of x, we're going to say 2 plus 1 equals 9. We write the entire expression out, okay? So now let's go ahead and solve. Remember, we're going to be using our PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction. All of it starts to build on itself, okay? So we're going to start with our multiplication. So we have 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 1 equals 9. So let's keep going with our addition. So we have 8 plus 1, which is 9, equals 9. This is considered a true solution because it ends up being true. 9 does equal 9. That is true. Okay? So let's say your homework asks you, or your assignment, I don't like to call it homework because that just, makes kids scared. Ask you to check to see if the variable is a solution or not a solution. You could tell me true or false. True means it is a solution. So true is a solution. And false means not a solution. So that's how I'm setting it up in your assignments. Okay, you either type in true or false, okay? That's how you tell me whether it's a solution or not a solution. So let's go ahead and check with what happens whenever x equals 3. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to say 4 times 3 plus 1 equals 9. Multiplication first. So 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 equals 9. Addition, 13 equals 9. This is not true. This is definitely false. 13 does not equal 9. So let's say I said, okay, well, is this a solution when x equals 3? Your answer would be false. Okay? All right, so let's move on to inequalities. So here's what specifically each of these signs mean. When it's pointing to the left or pointing to anything over here. So let's say I said something like this. All right, you would read this as 1 is less than 3, okay? This one right here is less than or equal to, which means it could say 1 is less than 3, or 3 is less than or equal to 3, okay? This means right here, if there's a line underneath it, that it could end up being equal, okay? Whenever it's opening up this way, that means greater than. So let's say we would say, okay, well, 3 is greater than 1. This is what we're going to use for x, so for like x values, so we would say, okay, well, x is less than 3. So the way you would interpret that is you could say, okay, well, anything less than 3 could be your answer. Or we could say, okay, x is greater than 1. That's what these symbols mean. And I know that these can be sometimes a little bit on the confusing side because of the fact that there's not one answer most of the time. there's multiple answers that are involved in inequalities because it gives you more of a range instead of one exact answer. So like there's a whole bunch of values that could actually solve the equation, okay? All right, so, and then of course we have greater than or equal to as well. Remember, if there's a line underneath, that means it could also be equal. So let's check the solutions of the inequalities if x equals 4. So let's check this one here. So this means anywhere there's an x, we're going to substitute a 4 in for that x. So we're going to say, okay, 4 plus 3 is going to be greater than or equal to 9. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So is 7 greater than or equal to 9? So we have to think, is 7, it's definitely not equal to 9. Is it greater than 9? It is not. So this would be false. Just remember that Pac-Man is always going to eat the larger number. The mouth is always going to eat the larger number. I call this a little mouth because whenever I think about Pac-Man, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Pac-Man game. So let's say that that's the mouth, and then you create Pac-Man. Nama, 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 nama. It's going to eat the bigger number. So this is telling us that 7 is supposed to be bigger than 9, and that's not happening. That's why it's false. Okay? So let's check this one over here. We have 2x minus 1 is less than 8. So remember, anywhere there's an x, our example says we're going to substitute in a 4. So this is actually 2 times 4, because when we're written right next to each other, that means multiplication is occurring. Minus 1 is less than 8. Let's use our PEMDAS to go ahead and solve this. So multiplication is going to go first because we don't have any parentheses or exponents here. So we have 2 times 4, which is 8, minus 1 needs to be less than 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. So 7 is less than 8. Okay, so remember, it's going to eat the bigger number. So is 8 a bigger number than 7? Yes, it is. So that means 7, since it is right here, 7 is less than 8. That is a very true statement, so our answer is true. So just like with the other example, your assessment that you'll be doing later, where you're going to be checking the solutions of inequalities, you're going to tell me true or false once again, okay? And if you have any questions, please feel free to text me. Again, I do apologize for being late with this video. I will try my best because I will be working next week at the school to make sure I'm not late next week. So, thank you for being so understanding. And remember, text me anytime you need help, okay? Bye.